welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with those movers and shakers, the film and TV makers, the producers, directors, actors, writers, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, composers, stunt coordinators, film editors, sound editors, sound mixers, VFX gurus. You know, I'll talk to them all, and I do. And I'm very excited about today's show and for you to hear from these two fabulous directors. Kristin Scott Thomas talking about the delightful, charming, and funny My Mother's Wedding. And Howard J. Ford talking up River of Blood, and a leisurely kayak ride through the jungles of Thailand, complete with indigenous tribes who don't like outsiders. What could possibly go wrong? Well, you're gonna hear from Howard in a few minutes. But first, it's all about Kristin Scott Thomas. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. Kristin Scott Thomas, director? Yes, you heard me correctly. It is that renowned actor, Kristin Scott Thomas, who has now added director and writer to her credits with My Mother's Wedding. And what a directorial debut it is. You already know how good Kristin is as an actor. You know her as an actor. But now you get to meet writer and director Kristin Scott Thomas in this exclusive interview as she discusses her feature directorial debut, the delightfully charming and heartwarming My Mother's Wedding. Basic story is 3 sisters, who were played by Scarlett Johansson, Sienna Miller, and Emily Beecham, return to their childhood home for a momentous occasion, the 3rd wedding of their twice-widowed mother, who is played by Kristin herself. Over the weekend, the family gathers to celebrate the new marriage, but mother and daughters are forced to revisit the past and confront the future, all with the help from a colorful group of unexpected wedding guests. It is a pure delight. It is visually beautiful. Eve Bellinger is the cinematographer, and nobody does natural light like Eve. And it's stunning color. Kristin has a great eye and has her hand in every aspect of this film. As I said, it's directed by Kristin Scott Thomas, co-written by Kristin and her real-life husband, John Micklethwait, and stars Scarlett Johansson, Sienna Miller, Emily Beecham, Frida Pinto, and Kristin Scott Thomas, among several others. Now, it's long been said to write about what you know, and that's exactly what Kristin has done with My Mother's Wedding. Over the years, she's talked about her family history, and her father, and then her stepfather. Both were lost to the war. So she took those experiences and she used that as a basis to tell this story. Obviously, a lot is fabricated, but much is not. It's about the emotion, the heartfelt emotion that came from those experiences when she was younger. It's so well crafted. And it was an absolute joy speaking with Kristin about her writing and directorial processes. From the first moment, it's clear that she not only was and is passionate about this very personal story, but understands the intricate details of the production and storytelling process and its collaborative nature. There are great interpersonal dynamics, especially among the 3 sisters within the film. So authentic and believable. This film resonates from beginning to end with authenticity, truth, and heart. Everything flows so naturally and believably. It was a joy to hear Kristin and her enthusiasm as she talks about the different departments. She has nothing but praise for her team, starting with casting director Lucy Bevan. How many directors have I spoken to in 43 years that have really talked about their casting director? Well, Kristin does. And then as she goes through her department heads, starting with Eve Bellinger, who does wonders with natural light, as I said, production designer Andrew McAlpine, costume designer Sinead Cadeo, whose costuming truly captures and defines the personality of each of the three daughters, as well as their mother. The costuming really it's contemporary, it's present-day costuming, but the fabrications, each woman wears a different kind of fabric, each different kind of style, colors, and color is used beautifully here, both inside the house, thanks to Andrew McAlpine, and within the costumes. One of Kristin's goals, she talks about at length, was to balance comedy and tragedy and leveraging English humor, and she nails it completely. Of course, there are also challenges to directing, and here she was dealing with the Royal Navy. Yes, when you see in some of the clips that are out already, or if you've seen the film already, yeah, she's on an aircraft, a destroyer or an aircraft carrier. She had to work with the Royal Navy. And those sequences were shot on day one of production. So to hear her talk about this is wonderful, especially since she has a connection because of her father and her stepfather from when she was young. And then there are children. There's a number of children running around here. And that always impacts shooting schedules, and there can be some chaos and mayhem. But Kristin welcomed having kids in the film and running around because of the authenticity that they brought to the table, that they bring to life. And both of us have a lot of love for composer Rolf Kent and his delightful score, as well as Kristin's choice for needle drops. I don't know how the entire budget was not used up on these, but some of the needle drops in the film include Elton John, Benny and the Jets, Cher, Believe, Carly Simon, Coming Around Again, Tom Jones, It's Not Unusual, the Bee Gees. Kristin describes it as being carefully curated, which is true, and it speaks to the soundtrack of the life of her character, Diana. But boy, oh boy, kudos to the music supervisor and to the producers who could play with the budget to get songs of this caliber, the rights to use them in this film, because they really do add a dimension, and they blend so beautifully with Rolf Kent's score. So, My Mother's Wedding, it belies this being a first directorial effort or first screenplay. No stone is left unturned. This is storytelling that encompasses all of the cinematic elements and weaves them together into a beautiful, heartwarming, and funny tapestry. So take a listen as writer and now director and actor Kristin Scott Thomas talks My Mother's Wedding. Hi, hi, Kristin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Where are you calling me from?
I'm in L.A.
Oh, okay.
I'm in L.A. I have to say, this movie is fantastic. I don't know why. I don't know why you've waited so long to direct. You have such a great command of cinematic language and storytelling. You have amazing interpersonal dynamics, especially among the three sisters. Everything is so authentic and believable. This film resonates from beginning to end with authenticity, truth, and heart. And it looks spectacular. The detail that you have in here with your different department heads, your cinematographer, your production designer, costume designer, on every level, Kristin, this is fantastic.
Well, I was very well supported by an amazing team, which my producer, Finola Dwyer, put together, and Andrew McAlpine. It was just wonderful. And I worked very closely and very warmly with my director of photography, Yves Bellinger. We had this sort of shorthand. We'd speak in French together. He was he's a marvelously talented person, and I just had a really, really, really excellent team, excellent crew, and it was all very kind of friendly and a really lovely, warm shoot. It was really nice. And of course, I had these amazing actors as well. So I think that what you were talking earlier about the interpersonal stuff, that is just magic from casting, I think, because they really gelled as a family, those women, and I think that was Lucy Bevan's brilliant casting, I think.
Lucy Bevan is brilliant when it comes to casting. What you have here is it's masterful. The personalities complement each other so well. And this is what feeds into the authenticity, the believability about this family, this mother and her daughters. And their seemingly dysfunctional individual lives, which is where the humor comes from, but also where the heart comes from. You excel at
my aim was to make a comedy about a tragedy, which is quite a difficult balance. And there are moments in life where something really grave and serious is happening, but you can still find something light and some sort of irony in it, or some kind of lightness in it. And I think that because of the Englishness, if you like, of the project, and I mean, two of my actresses were, one is American and one grew up in America. So, they were very clever in that they tapped into that sort of that sense of humor that is so particular to English people, about sort of slight gallows humor. And I think that really plays well in the film. And there's a huge tenderness in there as well that I was really pleased to be able to find between the girls, as I call them.
It comes across so well, and that's one of the things that really resonated with me watching it, because anytime there is a catastrophe or something sorrowful, I have always, I find the humor in something to get through it.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think
that's a very human thing to do.
Yeah, and that is such a strong resonance here in this film. But I have to ask you, Kristin, why now? This is such a wonderful story based on your own experiences. Why tell it now and direct it now?
Well, because why direct it now and why tell it now? Telling the story, as I've been sort of doing that for many, many years in my performances. And I think now, because I'm grown up and I have grandchildren and I feel quite secure in where I am as a person, I felt that I was able to share, to tell this story under my own terms. And I was, every single profile that's ever written about me has a couple of paragraphs about my tragic childhood. And I want to kind of reclaim it and say, well, hang on a minute, it might have been tragic. Doesn't mean to say the rest is. And this is how you get through something like that. And I sort of felt that this was, I felt confident, I suppose, enough to be able to do that. As for directing, I've wanted to direct for a number of years and had a couple of projects that didn't come to fruition. And then I felt that this was perhaps the one that would come to fruition because I knew the subject so intimately, I suppose.
That intimacy comes across on screen. And I got to ask you about working with your department heads. Number one, I want the kitchen. I want the kitchen in that house, Kristin.
Great. The color is great, isn't it?
Oh, the color in this entire film, the kitchen colors are fabulous. And then the way Eves has it lit with light coming in through the window at different times of the day, you get great shadow in there, which affects the tone of the color. And then you look at your costume design and the color.
The costume design is amazing, And she was really, really clever and gave such personality to each of the costumes. That's what I really, really like about it. They're very easily identifiable as Victoria, Georgina and Catherine they each have a very specific look, but their mother's influence is running through them.
Yes.
I thought she did an amazing job, and I was really happy with that. We had great difficulty finding the costume for the wedding dress. That was very tricky, but we got there in the end, and I think it was really great. She really understood what I wanted, but it took us a while to get there. And then I think what helped was that we found this house to shoot in, which is really tiny. And it's a lot of rooms, but the rooms are all really small, so everybody's slightly squashed in together. So you get this feeling of families, of physical sort of knowing each other, and not worried about bumping into each other and moving and shoving people out of the way. And there's a wrestling for space as in the house as there is in their own lives. They each want to be heard. They each want to be the one with the voice and, saying, but what about me? What about me? And that comes through. And I think part of that is because of the size of the house and the fact that the rooms are small and the ceilings are low and the camera is really right in there with us.
As I have to tell you, as I was watching this, and I love the intimacy that's created by the smallness of the rooms, but I kept thinking, poor Yves, how is he getting a lighting package? How is he getting the cameras in there? Because there is no room to navigate.
No, he was very brave and and totally wonderful, and managed to find himself a little corner, and he uses very little extra lighting. He used a lot of natural light, so that's another reason I really wanted to work with him, because he's so clever with natural light, and he's very, very fast as well. So that was always, you mustn't forget that I come from acting, where I can't understand why lighting a door is taking so long. Why do we have to do it again? So when I started off filming like this, I had this I still had this attitude, the attitude of an actress, and it took me a few days to get into the groove of having the attitude of a filmmaker rather than an actor.
You picked the right cinematographer for this one, Kristin, because as you said, Yves is a master with natural light. Just look at anything that he did with Jean-Marc Vallée.
Wonderful.
Beautiful, beautiful. And your location here, that beautiful little pond, the greenery and everything, and it works into the story and who Diana is so perfectly.
Yeah. That was Andrew McAlpine's genius talent of being able to tell a story with objects and places. And I think that is, that I really struck gold with him. And there again, that's another Finola Dwyer just coming up with these wonderful people.
It's one thing to tackle your first feature directorial, to be telling a story that is close to your heart. But you're shooting, you've got a huge cast here, a large ensemble. You've got a wedding scene that plays like a beautiful garden party, but you've got kids running around, so that impacts your shooting schedule, and you're dealing with the Royal Navy. How did you navigate those things in terms of this production?
Well, the naval section, which comes at the end of the movie, we actually shot first, of course, because that's possibly the most difficult and the most awe-inspiring, anyway, for a first-time director. You're faced with the biggest prop you could ever have, which is a battleship, which is an aircraft carrier. And they were amazing. The Royal Navy were amazing. They let us do so many things, and the people you see on deck are the real McCoy. They were there. They all joined in. They were all very excited to be part of this film. And I come from, as the film says, I come from a naval family, and they were all thrilled to be on the same film as Scarlett Johansson. And I think that they were really, really, really helpful. Couldn't have been more helpful, really. But that was quite a challenge. Yeah, I mean, just I had to get that right. I had to get those shots in, and I had to know exactly what I wanted, because there's no time to waste, and you can't. And it's difficult getting everybody around to getting everybody in one place for a start in one of those ships, because we actually lost some of our crew because they made the wrong turn and ended up, we had to wait for an hour for the script supervisor to show up because she got lost. Poor thing.
No.
So yeah, it's terrifying. But anyway, so that went very quickly. We had 3.5 days on that ship, but it was worth every second. It really was amazing. And then I can't remember the rest of your story.
Well, you've got kids involved, and that, of course, affects
the kids, yeah. The kids
shooting.
and their timing. That was, and I really wanted that atmosphere of sort of children. You're not quite sure what they're doing there, and I wanted the atmosphere of the children coming in and out, and you kind of wanting to be aware that they're around, but sort of ignoring them. So I wanted that slightly chaotic feel that you have when you have a house full of kids. And I think we managed that. And in the wedding sequence, that was very important to me, to have bored children everywhere and children kicking up a fuss. And that was very important to me, that.
And that happens at every wedding where children show up. So it was perfect. Your life experience is just all of that comes to fruition in how you tell this story and what we see. It shows you have lived a life and you understand what life is and how reality works. And you don't sugarcoat anything here.
No.
I love it. Now, I was really struck by, you've got some needle drop. Number one, I love Rolf Kent's score. It's beautiful.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah. We worked together on that, and I wanted something very sort of playful and sort of jolly, because, as I say, I wanted to make a comedy about a tragedy, and I wanted something very light-hearted and pretty, which he came up with, and it was brilliant. I was really happy about that.
And then you punctuate that with some wonderful needle drops, such as you've got Elton John's Benny and the Jets, Cher, Believe, Tom Jones, It's Not Unusual. You've got Bee Gees. You've got Carly Simon as your end title song. Did this eat up your entire...
These are all songs from Diana's playlist, because it is her wedding after all. So this is her generation of songs.
These songs, and I kept thinking, oh my God, the rights to these songs, it must have eaten up half the budget. Because these are on my playlist, I got to tell you.
Yes.
It's absolutely...
Well, we had a very, very clever music supervisor.
You certainly did, to pull off getting those at a price that the budget could accommodate.
Yes.
On every level, Kristin, this is just a wonderful, wonderful film. It belies you being a first-time feature director. But I have to ask you, now that you have made My Mother's Wedding, what did you learn about yourself now, having worn the director's hat and the writer's hat, that you can now bring forward into your work in the future, be it directing or acting?
I've learned a lot. First and foremost, I think always ask for what you want. Don't hide behind politeness. I mean, be polite, but don't be shy about what you want. You are given the job, and you need to express what you actually want, which took me a while because I was used to being an actress again. And so I've learned that, and I've learned that I want to do it again. That most importantly, I really want to do it again.
Well, and you definitely should. Quickly, how well did Kristin Scott Thomas, actor, take direction from Kristin Scott Thomas, director?
Basically, every time I did a take, I'd turn to the script supervisor. Is that all right? So it's Rowena who is responsible for my performance. I think she chose the takes. No, I'm exaggerating, but she did. I had to ask for help for that because it's very difficult not to be distracted by your own critique of your own performance. When actually I'm not the most important thing in this film. It was my daughter's the most important thing in this film, and I had to really concentrate on them and just hope that my performance was okay.
Your performance was better than okay. Your direction was better than okay. Your script better than okay. Kristin, this is a wonderful, wonderful film, and I can't wait to see what you direct next.
Thank you very much for your encouraging words.
Oh, Kristin, thank you. And you go have a wonderful rest of your day. And that was Kristin Scott Thomas talking My Mother's Wedding. And you can see My Mother's Wedding in theaters right now. Now we go from the beautiful, joyful, and fun to the terror and horror of a Thailand jungle with director Howard J. Ford and River of Blood. Another film which I love. I've been an admirer of Howard's for quite some time and always appreciate the diversity of his projects in terms of locations. Take a look at Escape, The Ledge, Never Let Go, The Dead. Is there nowhere on this earth that Howard cannot shoot a film? He's a true adventurer with his films, most of which, I might add, focus on female protagonists. He has lensed his films high up on sheer rock face, as he did with The Ledge, in the blistering desert, as he did with Escape, in the heart of Africa, as he did with The Dead, and now with River of Blood in the jungles of Thailand. He is a believer in authenticity, practical effects, and actors who can work and deliver under some arduous conditions. And it all shows in what we see on screen. River of Blood is a tale of... A very short synopsis has been provided by Sabin, the distributor, a distributor that I have loved for years. This is the tale of a jungle kayak adventure that descends into terror when a group of 4 friends become the target of a merciless, bloodthirsty tribe. Directed by Howard J. Ford, written by Tom Boyle, who previously partnered with Howard on The Ledge, River of Blood stars Joseph Milson, Louis James, Ella Starbuck, Sarah Alexandra Marks, and David Wayman, many of whom you may recognize from Howard's prior films. When you can find actors who are more than adventurous and willing to subject themselves to unfamiliar and demanding environments, you hang on to them for subsequent work if you can. And Howard has done that very successfully. And with what he reveals in this interview, we also get some tidbits for a few films that are upcoming from Howard, one of which is The Bone Keeper, and some of these actors are also in those films. But you can hear him talk about this in the interview. It's always fun talking to Howard because he's so excited, he's so thrilled, he's so energetic, and he loves talking about filmmaking. Now, as you'll hear Howard break it all down in this interview, he goes deep into his processes, starting with the challenges of filming in Thailand, including the search for jungle locations and the use of local crew. Now get ready for some great anecdotes here. Howard has plenty of them, including an incident involving dengue fever. And how about, it made him think of a prior incident when shooting in Africa with mugging and, yes, being mugged and a few other things that have cerebral something. You can't help but laugh at some of Howard's adventures, let me tell you. Now, he has nothing but praise for his Thai cinematographer, Park, whose full name I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. And we discuss the creation and use of smoke, along with the choice of using the Sony FX3 and FX6 cameras, because they're really good in low light. And of course, the jungle at night, you're in low light. You've got heavy foliage as it is. Very little sun, if any, is getting through when you're in the jungle, maybe on the river. But in the jungle, no, so you need something that's going to do well with low light. And then the lenses are some that Park personally picked out and very expensive. Howard couldn't remember the name of them. But they made Park happy, and they make the film look beautiful because the glass is so important when you're shooting. Now, of course, you're in the jungle. How are you going to shoot? Are you going to lay dolly track? Yep, Howard does. Amazing. But always at the forefront is his desire and demand for authenticity. And speaking of authenticity, how about using the real indigenous tribes of the area, as well as all practical effects? One of the truly outstanding elements of River of Blood, however, is if the visuals aren't rich and lush enough and beautiful enough, there's the sound design and sound mix. It is a wow on every level. We really get into Joe Vince's sound design and the mixing work of Graham and Adam Daniel, particularly when you layer in a very cool score by Anthony and Jack Wade. The sound design and the mix is fantastic. You hear all the sounds of the jungle, the night sounds of the jungle when things are quiet and calm, which also allows you to hear the swish of a tropical leaf, huge tropical leaf. Is that a machete striking it? The sound is impeccable. So whoever was doing the Foley, Joe Vince was actually out in the jungle with a boom, getting the production sound, balancing himself on a kayak in order to get sound from the actors as they're sailing, paddling on this river. Just impeccable sound work. Really fantastic. So, as I said, filled with lots of anecdotes and more than a few hints about upcoming projects, Howard's enthusiasm, exuberance, effervescence, and passion come through loud and clear. So take a listen as Howard J. Ford talks about River of Blood. Hello, Howard. How are you?
Hello, Debbie. I am not bad at all. How are you?
I can't tell you how excited I am to finally get to speak with you. I am such an admirer of your work.
Bless you. That's very, very kind. That's very, very decent of you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
What you did with the ledge, and I interviewed Brittany about the ledge and what she went through
the
on
ledge,
that.
That was a challenging film, making a film at height. I'm going to do another film at height soon, would you believe? But that's another story.
Oh, my God. And then Escape. You're hitting like every topographical area in the world, I think. The ledge, we're up high, we're scaling cliffs, rock face. The Escape, we're in deserts. Now we're in the jungles of Thailand.
We are. I do like to go places, I must admit. I like a bit of traveling personally, so I like to inject it into my films.
Well, you certainly do a good job of that. And I have to say, with River of Blood, this is also a beautiful film to look at. With the greenery.
Thank you so much. In fact, one of the things I like is trying to mix, if I can, even if I'm dealing with a horror subject, or let's call it a horrible subject, then I do like to put beauty in there as well, because, you know, the traditional horror films actually I grew up with that I still love, there was a lot of darkness and a lot of this, and I do like to sort of take us out into the light. And our director of photography, Park, did a beautiful job, and the Thai crew, because we filmed in Thailand, did a beautiful job. And there was a lot of running around with, I'm going to call them smoke machines. They were like burning pots of coconut or something to try and get smoke in the background and try and give you a bit of a cinematic experience.
Well, you definitely succeeded. The smoke in the background, as we see the indigenous tribe emerge, it's always great when you can have smoke like that, and then because of the foliage that surrounds everything, it is stunning. It's visually beautiful.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased that it worked for you. You never know when you're going out to make a film, you have an intention to give people a certain experience. You can never be sure you're going to win or not. So it's very nice that it worked for you. And I think first and foremost, you know, no matter what, you know, type of film you're into, I do like to take people on that journey. And there's no green screen here. We went up those rivers, we went into those mangroves, and I can tell you, before we even could get one shot in a day, we'd gone on a big journey right out into the jungle locations to try and give you something a little bit different.
Well, you certainly succeeded. Was it difficult to find this particular jungle location? Because you need the river, you need the jungle, you need cliffs, you need waterfalls, you need rapids.
Yeah,
you had
that was the list. You must have a copy of my location list. Yeah. I'm telling you, it actually really was, and it's so nice that you can actually see that and understand that we had to do a lot to make that happen, because it really, really was. And do you know, originally when we set out to make River of Blood, I wanted. I mean, yeah, I am probably a bit stupid and a bit, I don't know, maybe too adventurous, let's say. So I wanted to go somewhere initially where there had been rumors of real cannibal tribes. I know that sounds a bit stupid, but so we looked into Papua New Guinea and places like that where there have been rumors circulating of real cannibals, and I found out that it was actually, you can't go there, it's too dangerous, and which is maybe not surprising. So I was looking for the most sort of beautiful place that could feel like, you know, our cast members are going into this, you know, to deep into the kind of unknown and, you know, untapped jungles. And I'd been to Thailand on vacation before, and Thailand's a place that I really, really loved personally, and I've always wanted to do a film there. So I've been looking for an excuse. And so when the producers and the financiers, Reinvent, very lovely people based in Denmark, you know, were interested in doing such a film, I very quickly suggested Thailand, and then I went on a recce. I went on my own first. And do you know what's crazy? I don't think I've shared this story. When I left, I flew to Bangkok from the UK, then I flew down to Krabi, which is where the film was shot. Now, when I left the airport, a lady came up to me with like a sort of picture of loads of taxis and says, taxi, taxi, taxi. You know how people do at these places.
Yep.
And I thought, she seems like a really nice person. And I got in the car and I said, do you want to be the transport coordinator for a movie? She said, I've always wanted to work on a movie. So I was like, I just walked out of the airport and I was starting to recruit. And they said, I've got these friends who know these places, and yeah, we could get you all this. So that's kind of like, I went out there on my own and just started piecing it together from the bottom up.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow.
It was fun. And that was fun because that was sweet, because the lady was called Palm. She was a real angel. And in the end, so many of her friends worked on the movie. And even if they didn't have any kind of crew experience, we just ended up thinking, right, we've got to hire loads of people. We're coming into the country to film. We need to spread a bit of money around where we can. It's not fortunes, but so we ended up having all her friends. She got her friends to do the catering. Her mother did some stuff, and all her friends were like, it's so sweet, sort of carrying like drinks of water in a bucket for the crew. Just even if we didn't need half the people, we just thought, come on, they're so nice. We can't, you know. So we actually managed to get quite a lot of really decent people together, and they were really nice, the locals.
Wow. Well, I have to say, Tom Boyle's script, of course, he wrote The Ledge.
He did.
And you're on a rock face and cliffs. Tom must like that, because you give us some of that with River of Blood as we're climbing up.
He does like that. Yeah, he likes a bit of adventure too, and he likes to sort of write a high concept, you know, high stakes film.
This is definitely a high stakes film. And I'm sure that this is one of the reasons that you're working again with Sarah, with Ella, with Lewis, because they know what it's like to go on these adventures with you.
You know, this is so great that you've brought this up, Debbie. And, Sarah, Alexandra Marks, Louis James, and now I've done 3 films with them now. I've just wrapped another film with them, and also Tiffany Hannum Daniels, who is in... I've just wrapped a film called Bonekeeper with those 2 and more, again, from the original gang. But yeah, they're so great to work with, and they just love the adventure. They just kind of love it all, and it's so great to see people just loving it and having a great time, and they have the talent, and they're always ready to go on camera, but they just love the whole experience, and they're so easy to work with. And I love actors. I mean, I love actors generally, but I really do love actors who are just easy to work with. They don't take your energy to be able to do what they do. And so they're great examples of people who don't take any of my energy, and they give everything. And Louis, he, bless him, we cover him, we literally put him in a pit of mud. And so much so, and that was pretty disgusting, what was in there. It wasn't like we were using bottled water or something like that. It was kind of stinky mud that we put him in, and he was happy to be under all that. And, at some point, without giving a spoiler away, being half sort of hung from a tree. We didn't have the sort of what they call riggers and the type of people you have on these movies to sort of go up there first and line it all up. We were just kind of figuring it out with vines and bits of rope.
My
Bit
God,
crazy. I shouldn't admit that, but hey, come on, it was a life adventure. But they so love to muck in, and they've done the same with the new movie, and which I can't wait to share with you when that comes out too.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Is it difficult to find actors? Now, you have your core actors that they'll go on adventures with you, but then you bring in other people like Joseph Milson, David Wayman, and we're in water all the time. We're in water. We're getting bitten to death by bugs and mosquitoes and whatnot.
You're right.
How challenging is it to find actors that are willing to subject themselves to these conditions that the film requires?
You are right. I must say, if you go on a Howard Ford film, you are signing up for adventure. You've got to have an adventurous attitude, and you know, I do value the safety of people, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I always say to them, look, anything can happen here. We're going in there. This is unfamiliar territory to me. You know, are you up for this? And there have been a couple of people to, without naming names, to sort of, and we had it on River of Blood, where they read the script and they said, I'd really love to do this film, but I'm just worried we'll go down the rapids and I'll be off down some thing in a kayak and that'll be the end of me type thing. So not everyone signed up for it. I had a couple of people who we would love to have involved, but didn't. Now, Joseph Milson's fantastic. He was the star of The Dead to India, so I did a couple of zombie movies going back some years. The Dead, which we shot in Africa, which, if you want to hear about horrific time shooting with my getting mugged, held at gunpoint, and the lead actor nearly dying of cerebral malaria, The Dead was the one. Anyway, that's 14 years ago. We survived that one. We made The Dead to India with Joseph Milson. Now, Joseph Milson is fantastic. He plays the guide in River of Blood. So he's the guy who's meant to take them safely up the river, but his grandfather went missing many years ago and mysteriously disappeared, kind of thing. So let's say he doesn't turn out to be the very best guide, because they do end up in the wrong turf.
But I think Joseph is wonderful as Nick.
He is.
And you really
he's a great actor.
Put great confidence in him, because we've already met AJ and Maya and Jasmine and Richie. And out of those four, the only one that I had any confidence in as being thinking with their head and trying to get out of a situation if they got into one was Maya. Because
yes, and that's great. Yes, you're right. Ella Starbuck did a fantastic job. She's in Escape too. Not Escape 2. She's in my other movie called Escape.
Yeah, and this is something that you consistently do with The Ledge, Escape, now with River of Blood. You have very strong female protagonists.
Thank you. I'm so glad to mention that. I think women, I don't want to knock men, because I am one, but I think women generally can endure more pain than men. I know there is the physical side and everything else, but I think, there's a lot more strength to women than we've perhaps given them credit for over many years. And I like in Never Let Go as well, I wanted to have it was, in a way, a sisterhood of women, really. But, to sort of find out, what they would do in such extreme circumstances and rising up, to overcome things. And I love strong women. I'm going to do another one next, actually. So, that's great. I love to see them, using all their inner and outer strength to fight back. I think they're much more resourceful. I think they can take a lot more pain than men. You ladies have to take a lot more pain than men. We won't go into how but you do. And I don't know how you do it, so respect. But
watching Ella, she's fantastic as Maya. And she is the thinking one here. She is the one who is, eyes and ears are always open. And she's not getting involved with the testosterone dueling between AJ and Richie.
Yeah.
And what's really, and this is something about Sarah that I noticed previously in Escape. She's a tiny little thing.
Yes, she really is in real life as well. She's a mini thing. She's the most lovely thing, and yes, very mini. That's right. But don't be fooled. She's got guts.
Yeah, and that's just it. And we see that at certain points in Escape, and now again in River of Blood. So
yes.
I love the variety with which you cast, because you give
Thank
us,
you so much.
You give us somebody like Sarah that you think is just going to be decorative and sitting there, but far from it. She gets as dirty and is wet and
she
hysterical.
does. And you know what? That's that pit. Without spoiling the plot. We there's no green screen when with set. And I've got some sort of behind the scenes video of it. But that literally, we dug a pit in the jungle. We're in the middle of the jungle, and all these guys had to dig a pit with spikes in it. And she literally fell into that pit. And by the time we filmed it, it got completely waterlogged, and the mud was kind of this stinky mud, and she had to go down there in basically she's like underdressed. The character's underdressed for the jungle, so she's in like a skirt. She has to go down there in a skirt and her underwear, and lie in this horrific pool of mud. And she did it. She fell into there. She did all of that. So they're very brave women. We
got a lot of people falling in mud. Your opening scenes, the opening scenes of the film, before we even get to the title card, we see a logger, and a logging.
Yeah. By the way, I confess that logger is actually me.
That's you. My.
Is me. It's my cameo. I didn't credit myself. I remain uncredited. Otherwise, the IMDb starts to call you an actor, and I don't want to call myself an actor. But I do put myself. Hey, Hitchcock got away with it.
You might as well,
I put myself in these little parts.
I absolutely love the setup that we get in the beginning, because you throw us totally off. We've got loggers. They're stripping down trees, deforestation. You're figuring it's deforestation. And then you see indigenous painted-faced people wielding spears and arrows.
Yep. Yeah, they do. So we tried to be subtle, have them in the jungle, just about. Did I see that? Did I not?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And that's shot so beautifully, Howard.
Thank you.
I'm curious, working with Park and developing your visual grammar, how challenging was it? Because this is not easy terrain where you can just come and throw down dolly track and go la-di-da-di-da and, roll the camera down.
We did actually throw down dolly track and go la-di-da-di-da. But before we did that, we had a lot of meetings with, it's funny because Park is originally from Thailand, lived in New Zealand, now lives in the UK, originally born in Thailand as a DOP, director of photography, cinematography, whatever you want to call it. I came across him because Tiffany Hannam Daniels, who is also in Escape, and she's in The Lockdown Hauntings with Tony Todd that I did during lockdown. Anyway, so she'd just done a short film with Park in Brighton, which is a coastal place not far from where I live. And she knew I was looking to do this film in Thailand. She said, I've just done a short film with Park, and he's from Thailand originally, and he's a great DOP, and do you want to meet? So we just had coffee. So that was really nice to be able to meet with Park DOP in Lewis, which is a really old town in England, one of the oldest, beautiful place. We just kept meeting there and having like coffee or lunch meetings leading up to the shoot and discussing all these very things, discussing literally, as you said, putting dolly tracks down in the jungle. How are we going to do it? What lenses can we use? We then did little tests. We went out to the field near Haywards Heath, where we are, and we did some lens tests. We thought, right, let's pretend this is the jungle here. It's basically a park, as in his name is Park, but it was a park. And and then we did these tests and decided what lenses we were going to use. And he loved it. He's a real artist as well, and a really sweet man. And of course speaks Thai, and that was a massive advantage because not all of the Thai crew spoke English. Mm-hmm. And of course, why should I expect them to? It's an extremely arrogant thing to think. But that's the only language I speak. So yeah, we worked it out, and it was really nice to do that. And we kind of went on an adventure together. One thing to mention. I wish that moment you just mentioned earlier about all the smoke being there when the indigenous tribe is there. Now, we shot that right at the end, just before we wrapped. Mm-hmm. And we'd had a lot of tension leading up to that. There'd been some things that had got tense. And because things do on shoots, it's kind of the Wild West. And then while we were shooting that scene, Park and I, we'd had this sort of, we were not tense with each other, just situations. And we were rolling that, we were both shouting, kill, die. It was mad. And then we literally got to the end of it, and it was so stupid. We finished the take, we just burst into tears, literally fell on the ground, laughing, and with tears rolling down our face. But it was really weird. It was like a real release. It was like and everyone had a right laugh. And so the indigenous, the people we'd hired to play cannibals, which was tricky to get what I'm going to call scary-looking people to play cannibals. We had a right old run around towns and villages to try and get that sorted. We were just laughing at the end. It was just so nice. It was like anyway, there we are. We rounded the moment to a nice bursting out laughing in a killing scene. There we go.
As you do with a killing scene.
Yeah, they're the fun. They're the most fun to do. This is the funny thing about filmmaking. A lot of people see the horror stuff. Oh, isn't it horribly disturbing? Why do you want to do that stuff? That's the stuff that everyone's having the best laugh.
Yep.
When you're making films, and I've made loads of TV commercials as well, and as a director, the stuff that's the most tense, I think, is the stuff that's meant to be really romantic or really touching and really sweet. That sometimes is the hardest stuff to do. The people are having the most fun when they're doing the most, really awful, gnarly, gory moments.
I have to say, you have Park delivers some amazing shots in here, and with the lighting.
Thank you.
Such as in the cave, where we see the white limestone or whatever in the cave, and then we see the shadow of a machete
beautiful
coming
location.
up.
Tiffany Hannum Daniels is in that scene.
Yes.
She did a great job, and yes, that's it. We have a lot of light. A lot of light was needed for the creepy shadow effect.
It's gorgeous. Then you've got some beautiful, there's a couple shots with some really nice lens flares, sun flares happening. Yeah. And of course, the aerials. And early on, you give us, like at the 8-minute 45 mark, you give us these great aerials, drone shots, obviously, with the sun flares and the greenery and the river below. Just stunning. Thank
you so much. So nice you appreciate that, and because they do take a lot of effort to do these things. We did actually crash a drone on this shoot as well, which was unfortunate because we lost the drone, and we also lost for a while the shot that was on the drone, and I think it was our best shot towards the end of the film when without giving too much away, when there's two people left on the kayak and it goes through this valley. I was flying the drone. I don't normally crash the drone, but I was flying, and I kind of, for various reasons I won't go into, I was in the water, and I got moved off my spot, and I couldn't find my axis, and I got the shot, and I was like, wow, I was loving this shot on the monitor, and then it just went into the side of the rocks, and it just, bam, it had gone underwater, and for some time we couldn't find the drone, and it was done for. It took a couple of weeks to do some weird recovery to get the shot, but I was delighted we managed to get it back and put it in the film. So, hey, we lost a drone during those drone shots, but I feel like it was worth it.
Let me tell you, the result is beautiful. Absolutely. The aerials.
And the beauty is a big part of it. It's not because we didn't go too gory on this. I think between you and I probably would have gone a little bit gorier myself because I'd seen some of these original cannibal movies, but the whole team and the producers and finances were after sort of more subtlety, and so we hit maximum beauty at the very least.
You really did, and that third act scene with the village all around, that nighttime scene with the torches, and that's a money shot. That is a money shot.
Thank you so much. And actually, we called it a money shot at the time. That's funny. We did, because we were like, get all this fire in, and Park and I loved all that stuff, and because there's also the elements, wind, fire, all those things that we can relate to as humans. The elements have been around us, since the dawn of our time, and those things are very important. They look great on they look great on film as well. That was actually kind of difficult because we were doing that stuff far from anywhere, in the middle of the night. The torches kept going out. You know, you've got all these practical things to deal with. It was, so I'm glad it worked for you. And perhaps
it really did. And I think a big part also is because the cameras, you were using the Sony FX3 and FX6, which are low light.
You are right. You know your cameras. I don't even know how you know that, but yes, we did do that. Originally, we were going to shoot on a Airy Alexa Mini.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was going to be a Venice. And in the end, we realized, but after these coffees and these meetings that I talked about earlier, that we needed a really small camera that would deliver. But what we did do, or Park, I say we, Park managed to get some really, I wish I knew the name of them, but they were really, really wonderful lenses. It ended up, you know, the lenses cost a bit of a chunk.
Yeah, I'm
when
sure.
You know, it was a slightly skewed amount of money on the lenses because with the bokeh, you mentioned the lens feather or bokeh or whatever you want to call it, that type of thing, again, during our coffee meetings were things we were discussing in the test, and that's really what we wanted, that kind of look. And Park fell in love with these lenses, and I was like, hey, this man's in love. How can I get in the way of this love for these lenses? I need him to have this romance for the next few weeks with these lenses. So, yeah, he got them, and he was very happy. It's so funny. I love it because I you know, I've been making films since I was 13 years old, short films, and I've loved this kit, and I've loved that lens, and I've loved that camera. And it's great for me when I find people who still have that absolute love for these tiny, tiny things that perhaps 90% of people won't even notice, but you kindly have, and it's lovely to see that that love for the art, because you know what, it's I wish I could do normal art. I wish I could draw one painting and be satisfied with it. With a film, you have 2,500 pictures, and you put them. You have to go and get them all, put them all together. So you've got to have some sort of love in there to keep going.
Well, you absolutely, I mean, your lenses and the FX3 and 6, because they are low light, they'll work in low light. Yeah. That was so key here in the jungle, because you can't be bringing in huge light kits.
No, exactly. No, that's right. For the resort, funny enough, we did have to drive these. Well, I didn't drive them myself. We had people driving down from Bangkok. For the resort scene, we actually brought a couple of decent-sized lights, because we knew that if it rained or if it was miserable, that still had to look really beautiful and, you know, calm and serene. So we had these things driven down overnight from Bangkok to Krabi to use those. But yeah, once we were in the jungle, that's right, we needed to work with minimal light. It's funny you mentioned the cave, because now I really love that cave scene, and so I've done an entire movie in a cave now, which is the next one. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that, but Bone Keeper with John Rhys Davis is coming up, and it's got our gang in it again. It's got, you know, Louis, Sarah, Tiffany, and more people, and John Rhys Davis, and so I've done a whole film in a cave, so that's how much I loved it. That's a hint for next time.
I can't wait to see that. But there's another element of this film. There's two elements. One, the editing is great. The pacing is great. But I have to compliment you on your sound design and sound mix. I got to tell you, Howard.
Joe Vince. Oh, thank you. I will tell Joe Vince he's a wonderful man. He'll be so pleased to hear this.
Impeccable. Especially at night where it's dead silent, but we're hearing the night sounds. We're hearing the bugs. We're hearing just the disruptive slap of a hand to kill a bug.
Yeah.
We hear the rustle.
You're going to make Joe's week.
I mean, this is, Howard, the sound is just so well done. You know, we're hearing the leaves as they're trudging through.
Yeah.
We're hearing
this. Yeah, we talked about all of this stuff. Yeah,
the paddles to the kayak.
Yeah.
You know, in moments where...
You know, all that Foley stuff, I so love that you appreciate that, because all the Foley, and I really enjoy doing that. I still, to this day, really enjoy the moment where because when you shoot it, the sound on set is not good enough for this to feel it in the way you've described. So I love Foley. It's one of these underrated arts, and I love getting involved. I think Joe, who did the sound design, and he did the sound recording on set as well. He said that the hardest place he's ever had to hold a boom was on a kayak. And it was a real struggle. But all of those sounds, and he picked up some from the jungle. Obviously, some were recreated back in the UK. But hey, he'll be so chuffed. You know, he's literally starting work on my new film tomorrow. So this will be great fuel to put under him. So thank you for that.
But what's so beautiful is with the Foley and bringing it in with the mix that Adam and Graham were doing, is that it matches. It matches. The Foley is matching in the timbre, in the cadence. It's not off. You know, sometimes there'll be a Foley that just, no, this is not what a foot sounds like on slurpy mud.
Wow, you really know your stuff. That you've seen it. You know your stuff, and that's so great that you do. Not everyone does. So you're right, and it's horrible when it's off, isn't it? It's on the wrong. It's on the wrong surface.
And especially here, when we are immersed in Mother Nature in the jungle, you want to hear.
Very important.
We don't want it Disney-fied. We don't. we don't want things that don't fit. Just the sound design, it is impeccable, and the mix, just so well done.
Fantastic.
Howard.
I will tell the guys they'll be very, very pleased. They're super guys and super hardworking, and I have to say the mix itself is one of the most fun bits of filmmaking. The color grade is one thing. When you finally, you know, I'm not editing the film anymore. I don't have to make any more creative decisions. You sit in a room and someone color grades the images. That's that's one of the most satisfying bits. And the mix as well. That's when everything, you know, there's this classic fix it in the mix thing, and you really can fix a lot of things if and smooth it over and give people an even better experience with the mix. So it's really lovely to hear you understanding and appreciating all those things. That's kind of a rare quality from the other side of my interview.
Well, and what also stands out is the score by Anthony and Jack Wade, and particularly in that nighttime fire scene, because the music at that point, and that's like at the hour 4-minute mark, and we hear it gets very tribal. We have the beats. We still have the sounds of the night that are in there with the sound mix. But then we start hearing the Wades give you something that actually sounds very similar to what you can hear in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. As he's,
we talked about that as well. Fantastic.
As he's covered in mud in the tree, getting ready to have a face-off with the Predator. Just so...
Those guys did a great job.
The score and the sound design and the mix of it all together, just absolutely wonderful, Howard. Wonderful.
Oh, fantastic, Debbie. Thank you so much for noticing all these things. I'll pass that on to the guys. Now, I'm also doing, Anthony and Jack, they're doing music soon for another film, not the one I mentioned in the cave, the one I mentioned at Hike. I'm in pre-production. I've got 3 films going at the same time, one released. One in final post and the other in prep. So I've reached that triangle point of my career where 3 things are going off at the same time, and so they're doing the music for the upcoming Zipwire movie at Heights. So that's another one. There'll be more score from these guys as well.
Oh, wonderful! But now I would be remiss not to have you talk to me about the editing, because you're the editor.
I am the editor, and you know what, editing, I do enjoy it, and but it's a lot of work, and I've just finished another edit where I was like, why do I give myself all this work? I mean, I'm alone in a room, and there's a million ways you can edit the film. I think it's endless. You could edit a film forever. At some point, you have to abandon it and say, that's all I can give it.
Now, do you...
Yeah, and I enjoy editing, though, because the one thing is about editing is that, I mean, it is a lot of work, a lot more work than most people would ever figure out. But you are at least in control at that point. You can't change the world completely, but you're alone in a room. You know, a mosquito can't bite you and give you dengue fever, which we had on the shoot. You know, this type of thing. You are in a safe room. You've got the options in front of you. Lots of coffee. And hit go. I ultimately enjoy editing.
I'm curious for you. Did you do any editing while you were shooting, or did you wait until you had all of your footage and then sat down to work on the edit?
Great question, because it happens either way. But no, so basically, I didn't do any editing on the film until I had come back to the UK with all of the footage. But what we did do, I confess, in the evening sometimes, we'd had these long days or long nights, and we'd sometimes like get a meal together with the crew. We had these kind of villas, you might call them, very far from where we were filming, about an hour and 20 minutes away before we could even start trudging through a jungle. And when we had a little evening off, let's say, we'd have a glass of wine or a beer or two, we would put a few shots together, but they were literally those pieces of editing were just to see what one shot looked like next to another, if you know what I mean. So
yes.
We, as the crew, you can keep the cast and crew enthused by seeing a few little pieces put together and see the potential of how it's going to look. So we did a bit of that, but none of that made it to the actual edit. That was just stuff that we, put together at the time in the evenings just to sort of keep us ticking along. No, it was all done afresh about a week after the shoot. I needed a few days to kind of, because the editing head is very different from the directing head. It's really weird. They're really different, and actually, it's a very strange thing. I have to get into the head of an editor, and then my tastes change. Like I want different food when I'm editing than when I'm directing. It's really weird. I don't know what is going on there, but it's like a different part of the brain.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. I do that with writing. Sometimes,
right. That's it. Writing is just another one. Yeah, exactly.
Depending on what it is, I'll put it away, and then come back to it 5 hours later or something, and then look at it with a different POV, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
absolutely
no,
right.
I totally get it. Howard, you have done such an amazing job with this film. I love it. It is right up there in my Howard J. Ford collection here. I'm going to be,
Debbie. Thank you so much.
I'm going to be adding that to Escape, The Ledge, Never Let Go, and I can't wait to see The Bone Keeper.
Yeah, thank you. That's going to be a good one. I'm feeling really good about it. Funny enough, Louis and Sarah came to the grading yesterday, and Tiffany too. And they were very excited to see what's going on there. There was a really good reaction to how that's looking. So thank you so much, River of Blood. Thank you to you, Debbie. You've been amazing. What a wonderful interview. You know your stuff, and I'm very grateful for everything you've said. You're very kind, and thanks for your support. Also, anyone who watches River of Blood, hopefully they have a nice experience and a little adventure of their own.
Definitely, because parts of it, you really want to just kick back and be floating on that river in a kayak. And parts of it...
That's the fun side.
Yeah, but parts of it, don't think I want to travel that part of the river. But
No, it is lovely up there. I'll be honest, Thailand is a wonderful place. I highly recommend it. And as far as I'm aware, there are no cannibals there. But hey, don't quote me on that.
One never knows what's lurking in the jungle.
You know what? That's it. Yep, people can get hungry.
Howard, thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. It was a wonderful, I really enjoyed it, and lovely to you. Take care, thanks. Bye, thank you.
And that was director Howard J. Ford talking about River of Blood, which is available right now in select theaters, on digital, and on demand. So, that is all the time we have today. I'll be back next week with some more interesting filmmakers and films to talk about. There is one interview that I just posted earlier tonight on the website, and that is with Joshua Zeman talking about Checkpoint Zoo. This is one. It opens on Friday, the 15th. It is one of the most emotional documentaries that you will ever see. And it is about the evacuation of 5,000 zoo animals from the Feldman Echo Park in Ukraine. See it on Friday. Listen to the interview. I think it's one of the most emotional and heartfelt interviews that I've had with a filmmaker. It takes the animals to bring out humanity. So I encourage you, go to the website, behindthelensonline.net, and check that out. Of course, If you have missed today's show live or missed part of it and you want to hear it again, it's on the YouTube channel. It's on the website. It's on Podbean and 20 plus podcast platforms that are out there. So check it out. And then there's a ton more stuff that's on the website and also on YouTube. So until next week, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.